How hands are you typically on a production normally versus something like this that'll be handled primarily by the students?
Well, speaking for myself, I haven't been active on set for at least a dozen years. My role is I'm the executive chairman of Vortex Media. We have 30 regular full-time employees and a large number of freelancers that work on the half dozen to a dozen movies we make every year. In the past, of course, I've done an awful lot of different jobs in film, from props man to focus puller. But now, what my job is on set is to, I got a pair of eyes that's seen an awful lot of filmmaking, and I just try and spot the fires before they start.
Yeah, likewise. Could not have said that better. I mean, it really depends, Trevor, on your position on any given production. So as a producer, and normally as a producer, I want to be involved in every aspect of it. I want to know what the makeup artists are doing. I want to know what camera's doing, because I got to know every piece of equipment. I have to know every piece of the sound equipment, just so we know exactly what we can be using and where we can save. So you have to know everything. Obviously, BuzzFlix is a little bit different because the students are going to be essentially controlling the creative and kind of the day by day. But I will be sitting in on most of those meetings and aware of everything that is going on. We'll step in here and there. And as Bill said, anticipate fires ahead of time so that we don't have disasters on any given day. But really, it's up to the students to create this. We're not creating this, as Bill said earlier many times. The students are.
What's the most valuable lesson your career has taught you that no film school covers?
Humility. It all comes down to humility. No one knows everything. No one is better than anyone else. And if you're humble and open, the world can present options to you and you can make choices. But if you're egotistical and closed, you will miss the best opportunities that come along in this life.
That's sage-like. I think that's more people need to hear that. I know a lot of people that could really learn that lesson.
Well, we didn't hire certain people because we thought they had an ego and chip on their shoulder and whatnot. So
yeah, who wants to work with somebody like that? Not me.
A healthy self-image is important. A certain healthy ego is an important thing, but a sense that you're superior to another person is not beneficial.
To add to that response, if I may, Trevor, something that I've learned in my years working in this industry is just to be professional at all times. You might be at the point of crying on set. I've seen people have heart attacks on set, especially investors or producer types. And, I've seen people yell, and because, people think they have this image, especially younger people probably see this image of, Christian Bale back in the day yelling because somebody was in his eyesight and whatnot. And, it doesn't matter what level you're at, whether you're a studio head or a PA, and no matter what happens on set, there's a fire or somebody crashes a car or something. Yeah. No matter how stressed or tired you are, be a professional at all times, because people will recognize that, they will see that, and they will likely want to work with you again and again and have more respect for you as a result.
When you're in a leadership position, when you're directing a movie, as an example, and you have a crew and cast of 50 to 70 people out there, you don't have 70 people working for you. You're there working for 70 people.
The perfect way to look at it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Drop the ego. Yeah. It's a communal thing. You're there to make something beautiful. So put it all together.
A collaborative work of art.
That's it. Nice. That's a soundbite right there. How has the streaming era changed what gets made and what doesn't this day and age?
I think we're a perfect example that this is getting made because of streaming, because of digital distribution, because of YouTube. I can't say YouTube enough, right? I know that and I have a big distribution company, these films will be made available on iTunes and Amazon and Roku and Tubi and blah, blah, blah. And we will be trying to sell them into the marketplace because that's what we do. We have movies, little indie horror film that we financed last year. It's on Netflix right now. It's called Dream Eater. It's great, by the way. But streaming it's hurt old financial models, it's created new ones. It has unfortunately for a period of time, which I think we're coming to the end of, concentrated too much ability to get things made in too few hands. Basically, and with Netflix's model of really wanting to own everything, copyright, future rights, everything, well, that, for starters, is anathema to what I've spent my entire life doing, just making sure the artists actually own what they make. But it also crushed opportunity. And when opportunity is crushed, you just don't get good work anymore. So the democratization of streaming, with everything from fast channels to, digital aggregators like Tubi to YouTube, means that we can tell stories and find an audience, which is what it's always about.
Yeah.
Back when there were 3 television stations, if you wanted to find an audience, your first audience was the executive at one of the networks. Now your audience is there. The revenue concentration isn't the same. It's hard. When the networks were there, well, all the advertising money went into 3 sets of hands, and those 3 sets of hands doled the money out. Budgets were big. If you were Norman Jewison and you were making Westerns for the networks, you had a career that went on to be one of the greatest careers in Canadian film, right? But starting with the CBC, I might add, which gave him the chops to go down to LA and get the directing work. But now, we've traded these paper dollars for digital dimes. It's unfortunate, but it's true. We have to be making movies for less. We're very lucky in Canada to have consistent, long-term, multi-party government support for our industry. Doesn't matter who's in charge, what their manifesto is. Everyone recognizes that film and television create 2 things that Canada can't do without: well-paying jobs and our culture.
What advice do you have for a director? Say a director has an incredible film and doesn't know where to take it or how to get it out. What do you suggest he or she do?
Well, I'll use Dream Eater as the example because I financed the first film through, I was an investor in an organization called Cinecoup a number of years ago. It was another effort to surface new filmmakers. But it was more contest-based, and we ended up making the Wolf Cop movies out of Cinecoup. And the last Cinecoup film that we financed was a movie called Helmington, which it's okay, but it's not as good as what I knew the team was capable of doing. So I stayed in touch with that team, and the industry continued to change, and we tried to get more work for them. And finally, they said, we're just going to go out and do it. We're going to, we've saved up some money. We've bought some equipment. We're going to go out and make the movie. So we gave them $10,000 which represented, I think, 20% of their $50,000 budget. And they went out and they just did it, right? They had worked so hard, and they're such good filmmakers, and they worked really, really hard. So Tony actually was a development executive at Vortex when we were working with the team on Dream Eater. So we put our entire organization's abilities behind them. We had our finance guy help them work on their finance plan and their tax credits. We had Tony working with them, helping them on the structure of their scripts and some of their planning. We did everything we could for them. But at the end of the day, they went out and they made their movie. We were there to help, but we didn't do it. They did it. And they are actually part of the inspiration for BuzzFlix. And no question in my mind, in the back of my brain, seeing them go and do this. So these are not young filmmakers anymore. They were young when they made Helmington. They're now mid-career filmmakers. And they go out and they make commercials and industrial videos and do all kinds of things, but they have their passion still, which is most important. And they went out with limited resources and told a story that could be told with limited resources. And 2 great things happened to them. One, Eli Roth saw their movie and said, this is the scariest movie I've seen in years. He put his name on it. It's now called Eli Roth Presents. And in Canada, it's on Netflix right now.
Okay.
Right? This tiny little film made by these great young filmmakers who aren't kids anymore, but they're still young filmmakers. And they're so passionate and so talented. And they just went out and did it. And it's a great success story for them.